The thing that I think a lot of people forget, Casper, is that doctor is Latin for teacher.
Yeah.
The onus is on us to not only treat our patients, but to actually teach them.
Yeah.
And that's something that if you could prevent disease, stop it before it happens, why would you not do that? Now, there's a lot of obviously pharmaceutical and insurance and hospital administration incentive to keep people sick, which is what we are learning and we are trying to expose. But there is a lot of it where with the research that's coming out, there's a lot of preventable disease that can be managed through a plant-based diet.
This week, I had a talk with Sumeet Bahl. He's a medical doctor from the US. He works as an interventional radiologist. And we had a great discussion on how to eat plant-based food for upgrading your health, but also how meditation can help a doctor work better and keep his mind focused.
And so my heartbeat plays to your song, and it never gets old. It never gets old. Feel my heart.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Is it Summit? Is that how you say it?
Meat.
Sumeet.
Yep.
And you're originally from like America, or?
I was born and raised I was born in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was only there a year. I've been in the US the rest of my life. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I grew up, but my parents are originally from India, North India, Punjab.
Okay. So are they are they then first generation or?
Well, they're the first generation to move to the US.
Yeah.
I'm the first. You could say I'm the first one born. So I'm like first generation. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, I'm half Canadian myself.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, but we're from my family is from Calgary.
Oh, really? How about that? Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you born though?
No, I was actually a bit like you, but I was born in Denmark, and then when I was 1 year old, they moved to Calgary, and then my parents lived there for I think 6 years or something.
I see.
And then they moved back because I think they made like an agreement to see where to start a family.
Okay.
Because my mom is Danish and then my dad is Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and that's like for me, like that's my parents are both like athletes. They played basketball.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my dad played college basketball. So my life, like I've just been growing up with like being an athlete, and I became like a professional handball player. I don't know if you know that sport.
Yeah, I know handball. Yeah.
But European handball, like sometimes when I talk with people from the States, they think it's that sport where they like you hit a ball to a wall with your hand.
That's like so that version of handball is like a kid's version. But
Okay.
the handball that I know is like the adult version is you're actually throwing the ball to each other. There's a net in either side, sort of like, European football.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
It's also an Olympic sport. So and then I played professionally 8 years in Denmark. 6 of the years was as a vegan athlete.
Okay.
And I also played like the Pan Am Games in Toronto, 2015. So I got to try a bit because I played on the Canadian national team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's like I think that's where like my plant-based like all that started was to like how to optimize like health and performance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I found like that the whole food plant-based diet.
Yep.
And that's what like I found out like it helped me so much being like an athlete and becoming better and all that stuff and like running like the endurance just became so much better.
Sure.
And then 3 years ago I met my girlfriend, which we have 2 kids, and we opened like a whole food plant-based restaurant in Copenhagen, which is pretty like we do it really trendy, so we hit it so we can get a lot of people in.
Yeah.
So it's like a gourmet food, whole food plant-based, and I just wanted to tell you this story now so you kind of know where I'm from and like who you're talking to a bit.
Yeah, of course.
It's mostly like this is gonna be about you, the talk, because I want to hear about like your background and your job and I don't know if you had some like reflections like with your job on now when you also are plant-based, if you see something, I don't know, you see so many patients and you operate on so many patients, well, I'd really like to hear some like what you reflect on in your daily, in your daily day. And then at last, I'm also really interested in like the yoga stuff, but like I'm like not an expert at any level, where I see myself more like I know a lot of plant-based food and stuff like that, but like the yoga stuff you need to explain to me almost from the start, and the different, I think I've tried it, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 times, but it's also different types of yoga, so I don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah. So like what's your background, and what's your job and all that stuff? Let's hear about that.
Sure. So I'm an interventional radiologist, and a lot of people don't know what an interventional radiologist is. You may not even know. Yeah. So, yeah, sure. So basically, everyone knows what a radiologist is, right? They look at CAT scans, ultrasounds, MRIs, X-rays. They look at all the imaging. But an interventional radiologist performs procedures based off of that imaging. So I can use a CAT scan in real time to get to, let's say someone has a mass in their lung and I need to do a biopsy. So I need to put a needle in there. How do I know where to go? I use the CAT scan to guide me. I can also put a probe inside that needle and basically burn the tumor and basically effectively treat the tumor. So not only do I do diagnosis, but I also do treatment. I treat blood vessel disease. So, I saw a picture with you and Dr. Esselstyn.
That's right.
Ago,
yeah.
And Dr. Esselstyn was one of the authors on a paper in the Journal of Vascular Surgery, which is a big journal it's the premier journal for vascular surgery. And it talked about how a whole food plant-based diet basically reduces inflammation in the blood vessel and improves blood flow. That issue is a major thing that I deal with because people don't alter their diet. They don't change. So basically you go in there, you 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, and it shuts down again. So that's the type of stuff that I deal with. And basically what I do for it, I put balloons inside, I put stents on the inside to open up the blood vessel. So I treat a whole host of things, but all basically it's minimally invasive image guided procedures. That's what we do. So it's little pinholes and using images to do what I treat.
Yeah. And where do you do this? Like, was it Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
And so I'm at a hospital here.
Okay. Is that have you been other places, or how's your journey to become what you are? How does that look?
So it's been a long journey. Medical training in the U.S. is not short. So, you go through your 4 years of undergraduate education, 4 years of what we say is, 4 years of college or undergraduate. Then I happen to have done 2 years of graduate school. Not everyone does that. Then I took 2 years off. I went to East Africa and taught HIV prevention. I did a couple of other things, but these other 4 years I'm talking about, not everyone does. But after your 4 years of college, undergraduate, then I did 4 years of medical school.
Yeah.
And then 5 years of residency training in radiology, and then 1 year of interventional radiology fellowship, which is the final stage of training when you do your fellowship. Not everyone does that, but my field requires it. Yeah. And so now I'm a fully practicing physician for the past year and a half. I'm only 1.5 years out into practice.
Yeah. Well, that takes a long time, and that's a lot of studying.
Yeah.
Could you focus on the end goal for that long, or how was that?
It was tough. Tough. My wife made things a lot easier. We've been together since my first year of medical school. So for about 10 years now. So she was with me from the start. And it's a big commitment to be with someone who is taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans. That's how unfortunately the medical education system is here. Yeah. I didn't want any help from family. I wanted to do it on my own. That was my own choice. And basically she and I were going through that process together. So it's scary at times. You don't know what you're getting into. It's a long road, but when you get to the end and you're finally getting to make something and treat people on your own terms, it's nice. It's nice to be on that side.
Yeah. Oh, I imagine. I imagine. So like, how does the day look for you now? Like, how does a typical day with your job? How does that look?
Typical day, I get there and basically go through what do I have for my, we have outpatients and inpatients. So people coming from home to get procedures done, then they go home the same day. And then some people who are already in the hospital who need procedures. So I will basically get those procedures going. I will operate on these patients, and then I'll start taking my inpatient people who are already admitted to the hospital, and then sometimes we go see the patients up in their rooms to see if they've already had an operation. We go check on them. I've got a team of people I work with. I've got one partner. She and I basically split the workload, and that's the typical day. I do see patients 1 day a week in my office to sit down with them and talk about their condition.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's post-operative care. Sometimes it's pre-operative to talk to them about the details. This is what you're going to be getting. Full doctor's visit, examine them, and then book them for the procedure. And then I'm on call every other week, basically. So that's starting from 8 a.m. on a Monday to 8 a.m. the next Monday. I'm 24 hours available should I need to operate. I'm on call right now. So
Okay. Well, that's okay. Like if you need to
Come on.
stop this podcast, then
no, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's all good. It's all good. I can allot time.
yeah, oh, that's good. So like, what's your like with your education? I don't know what inspired you to go plant-based and seek that information. Was it Esselstyn?
So where did I learn about veganism basically? First of all, so I've been vegetarian. So I'm gonna turn off the heat here. I've been vegetarian since my third year of college, undergraduate. So that was 2004. And I grew up eating meat because most Punjabi people, North Indians, we do eat meat. And I used to eat everything, beef, chicken, fish, you name it, no restrictions. And then in 2004, I don't know what it was, but I just woke up one morning and had lost the desire for meat. I just didn't want to eat it.
Wow.
And so it just went away overnight like that. And then I'd been vegetarian for all those years from 2004 to 2017. And then my mom's sister, she's vegan. She lives in New Delhi, India. And she was always talking about it and talking about how good it would be for me to learn, especially as a doctor, because she was like, you doctors don't learn any of this stuff in medical school. I said, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
We don't. I thought she was crazy for talking about veganism. And because I didn't know, I'll tell you the major thing, Casper, is I did not know the harm that it causes to animals.
Yeah.
And having had been a long time meditator at that point,
Okay.
for me, compassion was a major thing that was growing in my heart. Constantly compassion for other beings. And so in 2017, when my aunt, was still continuing to talk about veganism, and then What the Health came out.
Yeah.
And when I saw What the Health, I was like, whoa, just being a doctor at that time and the scary things about industry and how things function, and already having that sort of thing in my mind where compassion should be my guiding force, all that came together. And then basically that's what started the road for me.
Yeah. And your relative in India who's plant-based, like, has she been for a while, or what stuff did she tell you about? Like
a number of years. Oh yeah. She's probably going on less than 10 years, but quite a number of years. And she had learned it from something called THAC, THAC, the Health Awareness Center. Okay. It's based in India, and that was her background with it. And she had just done her research, and she had watched Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives. She'd exposed me to those two. Yeah. But she talked about them, but I had zero interest. And it was not until What the Health came out, because What the Health was marketed so well. Yeah. That when I was able to see that, and I talked to her about it, and I said, "Oh, I see what you've been saying all this time." Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I feel that I totally agree and with you what you're saying and all with all the ethics, it's also so important for us who also do it because of health that we kind of understand like the ethics part, because that makes you kind of like stay to it longer, or more maybe stay through it while you get like, I don't know, maybe you think meat could taste good, but then if you understand the ethic part and you say like that meat is actually another being on earth, then it maybe makes you like say, I probably don't need it yet. Let's try it out for a longer, this plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really important. And how about like the plant-based lifestyle, like with your work? Like, can you draw some conclusions or some like inspiration for that, or is it still like just two different fields, or how do you feel like that?
Well, the good thing, what I've learned about social media is just how many plant-based physicians there are.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, we all probably follow the same people and have gotten to meet or at least speak with some of those people. And I've been fortunate to kind of start slowly. I've only been out of training for a year and a half, as I mentioned, but slowly through social media, connect with those people a little more. And what I've learned from all of us is that we see those diseases, preventable diseases, as a majority of what we do in our practices.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think a lot of people forget, Casper, is that doctor is Latin for teacher.
Yeah.
The onus is on us to not only treat our patients, but to actually teach them.
Yeah.
And that's something that if you could prevent disease, stop it before it happens, why would you not do that? Now, there's a lot of obviously pharmaceutical and insurance and hospital administration incentive to keep people sick, which is what we are learning and we are trying to expose. But there is a lot of it where with the research that's coming out, there's a lot of preventable disease that can be managed through a plant-based diet. I think Garth Davis has done a really good job with that.
Does he have the same? He does the same as you, right?
He's actually a bariatric surgeon, so he's a weight loss surgeon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in North Carolina, and he's such an outspoken person. I love everything he's got to say. He's very entertaining too.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have other people who are operators too, because it's not like it's not as if we're just taking the medicine approach, which is people and treat people with both prevention and medication, but it's also we get to operate on, so we get to see what the blood vessels look like. I get to see what the results are of people's lifestyle. And what you learn is a very judgment-free, but very compassionate approach to helping our patients. So I use the science. I say, all right, well, you've got this particular problem. I don't always mention right off the bat the dietary and exercise aspects, because time is so limited in what I do. However, if they do ask me, I am more than happy to provide them that information, and I do, and I counsel them on how this disease could have been prevented. I give them the research. And like I said, I talked about that Journal of Vascular Surgery paper that came out with Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Davis. Both of them are on that paper. I use that to guide me with how I approach patients. And one I think that was really helpful, Danielle Bellardo. I think a lot of people know her. So Dr. Bellardo came out with this sheet that says red light, yellow light, and green light foods. And that's actually, it's wonderful, because it's basically don't eat these, limit these, and eat lots of these. That's the premise. It's one page. And she's got another page that's like Introduction to Whole Food Plant-Based Diet. Those two sheets of paper I regularly give to patients.
Oh, that's good.
So it's really, for me, it's about getting down to the essence of what is a doctor. A doctor is a teacher, and I use that as my guiding force.
Yeah. Well, what in the Esselstyn's and Garth Davis paper you're talking about, what is it exactly that explains out?
So they did so example like pressure measurements, right? So like you get to put a blood pressure cuff. This type of cuff can evaluate blood flow as it goes through one of your arteries. And what they were looking at was what is the dynamic in between people who eat like the standard American diet and the whole food plant-based diet. And what they saw was that there was a substantial increase in blood flow. I'm going to kind of sum it up. It was a substantial increase in flow and less basically hindrance to flow in those people who had a whole food plant-based diet because they had reduced inflammation.
Yeah.
So when they've looked at inflammatory markers in blood vessels, for example, you can actually directly tie them in. So that's what that paper was about.
Okay. And what do you see? Do you feel like when you go and operate and the stuff you see in your daily practice, do you feel like it's really accurate what that paper says?
Well, the unfortunate thing is I don't have any patients who are whole food plant-based.
No, okay, so you can't really see the opposite.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm dealing with a really wonderful patient population who is just simply not exposed to the whole food plant-based diet. The really wonderful thing here is being in Brooklyn. So I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but in New York City, we have a couple of 5 boroughs that make up New York City. And so Brooklyn is one of them. Brooklyn is the largest. We have the largest population. Well, the Brooklyn borough president, he's actually very well known amongst the plant-based community throughout the whole country. His name is Eric Adams, and he's whole food plant-based himself.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So he is a former police officer who ultimately became a state senator and now is the Brooklyn borough president.
Wow.
So
yeah.
He's one of the most powerful figures politically in New York, and he as a Black male has been a major force in helping people. Like he's the poster child, basically saying,
Yeah.
look, I can do it. I did it myself. You can do it too. And he's trying to bring that into our communities. So he and I have discussed it a number of times, especially for my hospital, instrumental force in trying to change that, but it's very hard to change lifestyle. But to have figures like that, it's really, really important. So I'm on the ground treating these people. He's out there in the community trying to promote this way of living, not just diet, but way of living. And as you know, you might have seen it in the hip hop community, plant-based diet is growing big time.
Yeah.
And so hip hop music is like another love of my heart. I love
really?
hip hop. Yeah, love it. It's my life. So with that and getting to work with, him and my patient population, who a lot of them are young Black males to older Black males who raise kids who listen to this music, it's a part of my community.
Yeah.
And so getting to combine all of those is actually a daily part of my life.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is it like the operations like I kind of like I'm actually just like so interested because I've never seen an operation before. Like I don't know, like I've seen like some of the pictures you see on, I don't know, on the plant-based websites where you can kind of see that they're taking out some yellow stuff out of the arteries and stuff like that. Like do you see specific stuff like that?
I do. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm minimally invasive. So what that means is I'm not opening the body.
No, okay.
Like a surgeon. So I'm using X-rays, for example. So how do I see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I make a puncture with a needle in the artery. And then basically what I do is once I get in there, I make a couple of exchanges for things, but ultimately I'm putting a catheter, which is like a catheter is a long tube.
Yeah.
And that tube snakes its way through the artery. So how do I see it if I'm puncturing someone's artery, but I'm working in their abdomen? The way I see what I'm looking at is with X-rays.
Yeah.
And dye. I inject dye into the artery, so the artery lights up like that, and I can see it using X-rays. So that's what I'm looking at. And
okay.
So like for example,
give me an example. That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So one major thing that I treat by far more than anything else is uterine fibroids. Uterine fibroids are benign tumors in the uterus. And so women will come in with persistent bleeding, vaginal bleeding, uncontrolled, like very, very heavy during their periods. They've got bloating and pelvic pain, things like that. And amongst the Black community in particular, it's something on the order of 80% of Black women have them, but only around 50% even know that they should get treated. It's a highly undertreated disease. So what I do is I go through an artery in their wrist. You know the same artery that you feel pulsing in your wrist?
Yeah.
So basically from there, I use a catheter and it goes all the way up the arm, past the heart, and it goes down into the arteries that lead to the uterus. And I inject tiny little particles, 600 micrometers in size, so just over half a millimeter in size, thousands of particles, and I inject them into the arteries on either side to block up the blood flow so that they're no longer bleeding from those uterine fibroids. And a lot of patients will ask me, is there something I can do to prevent it? Well, fibroids are stimulated by estrogen.
Yeah.
And we know that eggs and dairy are very high in estrogen.
Yeah.
So there has not been a direct link, and I can't say this as a physician. It would be wrong of me to say that there is a known direct link.
Right.
But from what we do know, because it hasn't been studied specifically, but what we do know is that eggs and dairy are very high in estrogen. Fibroids are very stimulated by estrogen. So what would be a nice study to know is, could a whole food plant-based diet reduce the incidence of fibroids? Maybe it's something I need to look into, but because I treat tons of them here, but it just hasn't been studied specifically yet. But that's an example of what I do and where the prevention comes in and how we treat it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Like how do, like, I don't know, you talked a bit about that you would tell people how to prevent it if they ask, or if the right moment is there.
Mm-hmm.
How do people react to that? Like if you
I love it.
Oh, they do? Like they're not? Okay.
Oh, 100% of the time, if you can tell someone that there's a possibility you could be off of these medications or substantially reduce the dose, you could walk around like you didn't walk around before. You could have a completely different lifestyle. Would you take that?
Yeah.
And 100% of them say yes. And this is not even talking about the thing that's most near and dear to my heart, which is the compassion side.
Yeah.
That's a little harder to sell. Unfortunately, you think it's the easier part, but it's not. But they're very motivated to take control of over their own health.
Yeah. No, I used to say that you can't, like, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't think about other beings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it's so important, and that's why, like, for what I talk about, even though, like, I would say I'm vegan by heart to animals as well. It came afterwards for me, but it was because, like, I couldn't see it. I didn't take care of myself before. But after, when you take care about yourself and you start like, oh, I have time or energy to read about other stuff. Then you start like reading and watching movies like Cowspiracy, or there's just stuff like it's everywhere. Like when you see the dots, but you need to be mentally ready for it. But if you walk around sick, wrong diet, then you're just not mentally ready for the ethics part.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. What ethics part did like hit you the most? Like what made you think the most? Is it, I don't know if there was something special incident, or if it's just like the amount of animals like getting killed every day, or
yeah, I would say really it was the meditation side of things.
Okay.
I've been meditating, so it's 2021 now. I've been meditating since 1997, so we're going on 24 years.
Yeah.
So most of my adult life has been meditation. So the deeper and deeper I've been going into it, the more it's been making me realize the oneness that we have with each, not just human, but each being. And as I was seeing what was going on in the world, it was just, I was internalizing, in a sense, the suffering that they were experiencing. I didn't want anyone or anything around me to feel pain if I could prevent that, if I could be an instrument for change, that they would not have to experience that. So that was growing more and more. And that's where I'm saying, literally, when I was in undergraduate studies, I just woke up and it was gone. And that's, by that point, I'd been meditating for a good, not quite 10 years, but a couple of years at that point. And that's where the meditations were going deeper and deeper and deeper, to the point I just woke up and I was like, I'm done. Yeah.
But what made you start the meditation? I
was always looking for something the why are we here? Even when I was a kid, I used to
Yeah.
ask my mom questions like that. I was like literally 8 years old, and I used to ask questions like, why are we here? What's this world about? Is there anything more? They would take me to our Sikh temple and our Hindu temple both, and it was really wonderful. But I couldn't. No one was teaching you how to really live the way these figures are talking about, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
even if I would go to like a church with a friend, I was open from a young age. I was open to all religions. I was open because they were all ultimately saying the same thing, but the one thing they weren't saying is, how do you become the very thing that they're teaching? How do you make that a part of your life?
Mm.
And so that's when meditation came into my life through my mom, actually. And when she introduced me to it, when I was 14 years old, I was like, wow, this is it. And because you get to sit down and actually experience it for yourself, what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so there was a book that changed my life, and it's actually pretty big for a lot of people. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi.
Okay.
And it was written by Paramahansa Yogananda. And he basically was a very instrumental figure for bringing yoga from India, meditation from India to the West. And so this was in the 1920s is when he came to the US for the first time. And this book is so profound. It was actually it was on Steve Jobs' iPad, and it was the only book on Steve Jobs' iPad, and he read it every year. And so at his funeral, it was the one thing that was given to everyone at the funeral.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's Autobiography of a Yogi. And that book has been very instrumental in getting a lot of people, whether they end up learning the type of meditation that I do from Yogananda, or they pick another path, whatever is right for them. It's been very big in helping people get motivated to know that they can truly live the life that's been mentioned in all of these religious texts and everything. And you start realizing the oneness with all of it. You're like, oh, wow,
Mhm.
Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Sikhs, you name it, they're all saying the same thing ultimately.
Yeah.
We have misinterpreted it and we've kind of messed it all up, but that's what they're ultimately saying. So that's where meditation gets you, is like, oh, what's the unity? And then when you get the unity with everyone else, you start feeling it with all of the animals, and now you start feeling it, and this is where it all kind of combines back into the plant-based, and this is where it all comes together.
Yeah. How does a meditation session look for you?
Me, so it's funny, I had done it right before this call.
Yeah.
After helping my wife feed the kid and put him down.
Yeah.
I basically, there's a set of energization exercises that I do to actually energize my body in the morning, then tense every muscle, and then give attention to each part of my body too. And basically, you willfully tense the body, relax it, tense it, relax it in those specific body parts, and you do it as a whole. And then I sit down and I meditate, and it's basically the practice of, in its essence, it's just basically watching your breath.
Yeah.
Being aware of your breath, not trying to control your thoughts or control what's going on, but basically just be a passive observer of it and just watch it all as it's happening. And the more and more you do it, the more your breath stills, the slower your heart rate becomes. And this has been all measurable. You want to go back to the science stuff, there's lots and lots of studies on it.
Yeah.
And they've looked at even fMRI, which is a type of MRI of the brain, where they look at blood flow in the brain. And they've seen that in advanced meditators, certain areas of the brain are getting more blood flow,
Yeah.
and certain areas are not. And so, for example, the fear center in the brain, they've looked at that one, where the fear center in the brain, just through a couple of weeks of meditation, starts getting less blood flow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's something that's been something that's reproducible time and time again. And so as that's something that has been really wonderful in my meditation. I get to experience that firsthand. You get to start feeling your breath slow down, and that's where the deeper and deeper you go in the meditation, again, this circles back to compassion. You become so still. There is a sense of, it's so hard to describe, Casper, but like such a stillness where you don't feel your body.
Yeah.
And you're just completely present in that moment. What was, what will be, they don't exist. You're just here and now. And when you don't feel your body, and it's even more so, not even your mind, because you start separating yourself not only from your body, but from your mind. It's not like your mind is doing all the work. You actually become a passive observer on a third level of being an observer of your own mind and your thoughts. And even those become still. And so that's where your meditation ultimately should lead you to, where you're just an observer of it. And what does that mean? When you're able to get to that point, it's like, whoa, if I'm not the mind or body, I'm limitless. Where do I end? Where do you begin? And that is where the sense of compassion comes back around. Because right now, you're across the Atlantic Ocean from me.
Yeah.
But there's really no difference. And the more and more you meditate, you start feeling that. And that's where, how could I not love everyone as myself? How could I not see myself in everyone? And that's my meditation. That's where I hope people get into meditation, aside from just manifesting what they want in life and living a sense of even-mindedness, being more calm, absolutely. But if you can get to a point of utter love and compassion for everyone, that's it, man. Like that's the ultimate thing. And I find that even helpful in my own medical practice, of course, how I approach patients. So
yeah. How do you feel meditation has evolved for you since you start and till now? Like, do you feel that there's been a difference? Like, do you get better of doing it? Like, or yeah.
Big time, huge. It's an evolution every single day.
Yeah.
But, so the technique that you learn when sort of the way that like Yogananda's journey is, as he got you on all of his writings and everything, is that you first learn some basic techniques, and those are founded on essentially mindfulness, just being present. And then down the road, when you decide you're ready, basically, and you know there are monks in the organization who kind of oversee everything, and you basically kind of speak with them, and you basically say, look, I'm ready to go to learn this more advanced technique. And it's no different than going to school. You're not going to teach calculus to a third grader, you know? So it's the same thing. You show proficiency, you do it, and they basically say, all right, if you think you're ready and you've been doing it regularly, you teach it. There's a specific way it's been passed down over generations in India, and that's basically how you learn it. And so this technique is called Kriya Yoga. Kriya means action.
Okay.
Yoga people think of like Hatha yoga, where there's movement. There's nothing like that.
No.
Yoga is not. Yoga just simply means union. That's all yoga means. And so the various types of yoga, there's multiple ways to get that union. Well, the thing with Kriya Yoga that I do, and you're asking me about the evolution, is once I got to the point of learning Kriya Yoga, you're learning to channel the energy up your spine. So you're basically, as you're breathing, you're visualizing the energy going up your spine in a very specific way. And as it goes up higher, and you're kind of elevating your consciousness to that point, everything kind of becomes a focus here at the point between your eyebrows. And that's where all of your energy is seated. And so that's how learning that technique in 2005 now, so about 15 years, has substantially changed everything in my life. How I approach people, how I interact with my wife, even with my son. My son's only 6.5 months old. Like, just everything is based on my meditation practice. It's my life, and it has changed how like when things are going bad in my operating room. Yeah. And things can go really bad very quickly. You know, someone starts bleeding out all of a sudden. They're literally dying on your table in front of you. To maintain a sense of calmness rather than freaking out and saying, all right, you know, fellow doctor so-and-so, I need you here. Nurse, I need you here. The anesthesiologist, I need you to take care of this. This is what I need. And to be able to just kind of focus and compartmentalize and say, this is what needs to be done. And then that patient is alive and well the next day because you were able to maintain your calmness.
Yeah.
That's something that I found substantially useful. And it's not that everyone has to meditate to be able to do that. But the thing is, as I was mentioning, there are far more benefits than just the calmness.
Yeah.
And that's been evolving over time.
Yeah.
And you really start getting into the metaphysics of meditation too. Why are we here? And you start getting to see the little physical changes around you that are very hard to put into words. And I can only say you learn from experience.
Mm.
And then the last thing I'll say about that, well, two things. One of them is that I think the most practical thing it's taught me is even-mindedness. You're not always in control of your circumstances, but you are in control of your response to them.
Yeah.
And that has been really, really huge for me for a number of years. I just don't argue with people anymore. I'm not bothered anymore. I haven't lost my ambition. I'm equally ambitious to try to get what I need it. I can work with people so much better because I'm like, I can't control what your reaction to that situation. I can't control what you did to me, but I can control my response to it. And when people see that, whoa, he was just calm about that, and then he kind of toned down his voice and just talked to me calmly. Oh, then you watch their tone, their face relaxes, all of that happens because they're just like, oh wow, he wants to work with me on this.
Yeah.
I get it all the time. It's constantly how I function with people. And simply because I realized I am not in control of you. I'm only in control of myself. And when you kind of keep that upon yourself, everything kind of relaxes. So that's been one major thing. And the other thing, lastly, is like the patience you learn with yourself. I don't know if I recently learned this, but the Chinese bamboo, the actual Chinese bamboo tree, when they plant the seed for a bamboo tree, it takes 5 years before the Chinese bamboo actually sprouts out of the ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 years. So the importance of that message to me when people ask me about, oh, I can't meditate, or can I do it? Can I get into it? I'm not getting anywhere. I tried it. I said, look at the Chinese bamboo.
Yeah.
It's been there for 5 years. It regularly gets watered. They water it, they put the fertilizer in, they do all of the necessary loving care to it for 5 years. And you're not seeing any result from it. And then finally, it starts to sprout, and they say it can grow as much as 3 feet a day.
Yeah. It's crazy when it starts growing.
Yeah, in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Look at the foundation.
Yeah.
5-year foundation to grow something that tall and beautiful. And so that's how I look at my meditation practice.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Like, wow. Yeah. That's, I think it's really inspiring. Like, I've always been really into the meditation, but I'm not, I haven't taken it further, and it annoys me a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish to like make the right surrounding or something like that to do it every day. But there's something that I'm just not ready yet, but I feel like I'm on that path. So like I totally agree with the stuff you say. And yeah, even like, have you seen that there's like a new Netflix documentary series about meditation?
The Headspace?
I think it's Headspace. Yeah.
Headspace is a major app, right? It's one of them. It's Calm is the highest. Calm has the highest. What can you say? Fundraising for. They've raised the most money to develop their app. This app called Calm. Headspace is number 2, but Headspace, the really good thing about it, the founder is a former Buddhist monk himself, and he has, I would say more so than the Calm app, he's been a great figure for putting himself out there. And his name's Andy Puttycombe. So Headspace has entered a lot of people's phones now, and they're using the Headspace app. And then so what's really nice is that they came out with Headspace on Netflix, and it's a really great way to get into meditation. I think a lot of people have asked me about it. I think it's a wonderful starting point. And it's actually something that is sustainable for many, 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 many years, a whole lifetime. I think it's something wonderful to do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I hope is that people can go beyond guided meditation.
Yeah, of course.
They learn to go within the silence within themselves. Yeah. And then that's where I would love to take people is even deeper than that.
Mm.
Get into the real essence of why we're here. Get into the metaphysics of it all, not just how to live, but how to go beyond life.
Yeah.
That's how deep you can really go with this. It's infinity. It's endless.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere, you know?
And I think that's what they do really good. And what I like, for me as a person who has tried a couple of times and tried to do it maybe some days in a row, but where I also feel like my mind takes off too much and asks too many questions about like, why am I doing this and all this stuff. And that's where I feel like that documentary, what they do really good is that they come with all like knowledge about it. And that I feel like that calms my mind a bit, because I feel like, oh, now there's a reason why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I know meditation is also like all the stuff you said, but you kind of need to get past that wall, I think, with like not questioning yourself all the time.
Sure.
And then I think it's cool that they actually guide you through a meditation, because again, I like for myself, like then you're sitting there and you feel like, is that it? Am I doing it right? Like, am I thinking the right thoughts? And then because you have somebody so logical saying it, like it just helps so much.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
yeah, so I would like really recommend people to watch some of that stuff if you want to do it.
Definitely.
I've also always been like really interested in like in the Buddhist monks, and also have like a small dream for myself about like actually going there and see like where how they do it, and even like maybe try to like be a part of something like that, because I think also society also brings you out of that zone a bit, the way like the way society is structured, like how fast paced it is, and stuff like that. So I just have like a feeling in my heart somewhere that I need to like take down there and really like get out of society and see like how it works for real. A bit like the questions I think you gave yourself, like what is all this? And when you go to the church and hear stuff from the church, they don't really give you like the exact answers in some way. I don't know, but yeah, like that's something I really want to do. It is.
Well, that's cool. I mean, if you do ever get the chance, I know it can be difficult with running a restaurant and having 2 kids, but um, but there's something called Vipassana.
Yeah.
Vipassana is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is the most true to Buddhism that you could ever find.
Okay.
So most of the Buddhism that people know is the Dalai Lama type of Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
That is basically Tibetan Buddhism. And there are many offshoots of Buddhism, all ultimately leading to the same point. But Buddhism at its essence is learning to be present in the here and now, and to basically remove yourself from all of the aversions. Like think about all of the aversions we have to things. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's just we function on that. We're trying to constantly avoid negative things and seek pleasure, right? That's what we do. And so what it does is it gets you away from that to just be in the here and now, accepting the reality as it is. That is the fundamental practice. And Vipassana does a really wonderful job of that. So what they have, and I did this a number of years ago, they have starting off with a 10-day retreat. But it's not necessarily easy, okay? If you wanted to really experience what Vipassana is the original Buddhism as Buddha had founded it himself.
Okay.
And basically what it is, it's a specific type of technique. And when you go to the retreat, it's 10 days of silence. You don't make eye contact with anyone. You don't speak. No one will speak to you. There are set times that everyone will, you'll meditate in the morning on your own.
Okay.
You'll eat you'll have your breakfast, then you'll sit down as a group and you will meditate a number of times as a group together, but no one is interacting. You're just totally within yourself.
Mm.
And you do that for 10 days straight. And when you speak for the first time or you hear someone's voice, it's like, whoa, because it's just very profound.
Yeah.
To know that you can go on without having to talk to anyone or hear anything. You're just with yourself. And so that's probably the most extreme form of retreats you can do. But it's a pretty cool experience. But then, yeah, beyond that, there's lots and lots of places. I went to Bali a year and a half ago, and my wife and I went to Bali, and we went to some Buddhist temples there. And if you ever go to any Buddhist temples, just to experience it and feel it, and just sit there and just the calmness, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's totally on my bucket list.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah. So this is almost an hour, but I wanted to, like, how is it to be a dad? Is it hard?
You know better than you have a boy and a girl, right?
Yeah.
How old are they?
1.5 and 4.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, you know a lot more about it than me, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I would say it was challenging in the beginning, especially like the first maybe 3 months, 4 months were very challenging because he was just so tiny and he couldn't interact as much. And I think I could be wrong. Maybe you were different, but I feel like for the mom, there's so much direct interaction, especially if the mom happens to be nursing and breastfeeding, and then even more. You're just super, super, super close. And it's not that you're not close, but it's like there still feels a sense of separateness.
Yeah, totally.
But then once he got to a point where he was a lot more awake and looking at you and playful, then I'm just like, oh man, it's so much fun because it's constant laughter and it's so much play, and then you get to feed him a lot more, and there's so much more interaction you get to do, and he becomes your little buddy,
Yeah.
And so
no, I had the same experience, and I also feel like, especially with my first kid, because you didn't know you didn't know what you were going to do, right?
Yeah.
So you're just waiting there, and then you help your girlfriend like through labor and all that stuff, and then you have that kid, and you're like, oh, now I'm ready to be a dad, and then like dad just starts in 2 months. Like you need to wait for being a dad for 2 months almost, because the connection is so much between the mom and the kid. So yeah. So I found out, so like the first couple of weeks and months is more being like supportive to your girlfriend. I think that's the most important. But yeah, it's pretty shocking actually, even though like because you feel like I can't help with anything.
yeah.
Like,
that's how it started off.
The kid is crying, like they want you, and like so it's hard. Like I always said that because I've been on so many like sports camps and stuff like that, training camps for so many hours and whole weeks where we just train like 3 times a day and stuff like that. But having a kid, like that first 2 weeks, fuck, that's the hardest I've ever tried. Like you're just so tired, and the kid doesn't care, you don't get your sleep, and all stuff like that. And it's like, so it's really I think we should congratulate everybody who gets kids, because
I know, really.
Like it is a big job.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. And what moms go through, especially just to keep it all together until we're able to help. And it's just, they're incredible people. But yeah, there's nothing like having a kid.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, cool. And like I'm so happy that we had this talk, and thanks for like sharing all that stuff. Like really inspiring. Like even made me to even think about like the meditation like way more, and also understanding doctors a bit more. Like yeah, I feel like that I really wanted to talk about like the weightlifting you do,
Mhm.
but maybe let's just wait with that until like next time. Like
Sure.
because I feel like we could talk like an hour more on that stuff
Yeah.
because we're both really interested in it. But
Yeah, yeah.
but this like it just had like so good structure with like with your job and using the meditation in your job and in life and the plant-based stuff. I think this is I think we found something pure.
That's great. Like, I agree. Thank you so much for having me.
It makes me feel alone, something I feel. But now I'm in so deep and I can let you go. Show me love and I'll show you more. It seems to me you only lie, and I tried so hard to make you wanna see someone else can never be like me. Well, let me in, well, let me go. And so my heartbeat plays to your song,